This is the moment that turned the villain of Smash Bros. Into its most unlikely hero. For years, Juan DeBiedma, known as Hungrybox, was the heel of the Super Smash Bros. Community. His game style was despised, his wins begrudged, and even his own father doubted him. So how did one night switch everything? How does a player go from being jeered off the stage to rewriting his legacy? The answer lies at a tournament called EVO. In July of 2016, despite boos from the crowd and the pressure of expectation and past failure and doubts ringing in his head, Juan finally got the thing that he always chased. He became the hero. Villains in sports are as old as sport itself. The guy or team that everyone loves to root against. The audience cheers when they fall short and grimaces when they celebrate. We've seen versions of this guy for basically forever. During the 2000s Patriots dominance, it didn't matter how brilliant Tom Brady was or how ingenious Bill Belichick could be. They were the villains because we watched them win so much, it felt like a formulaic movie on repeat. Or Juan Soto, when he stands in the batter's box with swagger and stares at the pitcher. If he's not on your team, that's got to be really frustrating when he shuffles and then hits a ball 400 feet out of the park. Or even someone like Luis Suarez, one of the most talented footballers of his generation, but his boneheaded and controversial actions when he didn't have the ball landed him solidly in villainous territory. Being able to root against someone can be nearly as fun or maybe even more fun than rooting for someone. People find athletes, or players, to root against for a bunch of reasons. Sometimes it's the guy who doesn't even win that much, but the way he tries to win makes people furious. Sometimes it's the guy who wins too much. Sometimes it's the guy who wins in a way that feels wrong. It's just part of the equation, the landscape of sports. And all of that is no different in the world of esports. Sure, the competitions look different, fought in virtual worlds, and nobody's dumping Gatorade after a win. But the emotional stakes are the same. If you're a traditional sports fan, the world of esports may seem foreign. Over the past few decades, esports has grown from a niche world that lives in dimly lit rooms and basements into a global industry that has filled arenas full of fans and seen million-dollar sponsorships that treat gamers like athletes. The games themselves range widely: first-person shooters, strategy games, fighting games, and more. And at their core, all of them share the same appeal as traditional sports: skill, competition, spectacle, but they simply unfold in digital worlds. But even in an already non-traditional world, there is one game that stands out as even more non-traditional: Super Smash Bros. Melee. A 20-year-old game that's played on a GameCube, a console that has since been surpassed by plenty of other consoles, namely the Wii, Wii U, and Switch 2, and multiple generations of Xbox and PlayStations. For the unfamiliar, Smash Bros. Is a series of fighting games made by Nintendo, where two or more Nintendo characters battle it out to be the last one remaining on stage. The main difference that sets Smash apart from other fighters is that instead of whittling down a health bar, you're trying to knock your opponent off the stage and keep them from coming back. If they ever fall off the stage or are sent far enough into the sides of the screen, they die. In Melee, you start with 4 lives, or stocks, and your goal is to eliminate the other player's 4 stocks first. The numbers on the bottom of the screen are basically a meter for how far the character will get hit. The higher the number, the farther the launch will be if they get hit. Each character has a different balance of speed and weight and strength, and it's a constant push and pull. You build up damage with strings and small hits, and then look for one haymaker that will take your opponent's stock. The Super Smash Bros. Games were not designed to be an esport. Nintendo intended it to be a chaotic party game where Mario could punch Pikachu while everyone laughed on the couch, but players found a hidden depth. The game engine of Melee enables it to be a really fast, really frantic dance as the players circle one another. There's a true freedom of movement in Melee. Players can run, jump, dodge, shield, and grab, not to mention techniques like wave dashing, moonwalking, edge canceling, shield dropping, and much more. In the hands of a skilled player, Melee characters can move faster and more dynamically than almost any other game. Over the years, each of the Smash Bros. Games has enjoyed a turn in the spotlight as an esport, from the first on the N64 to the modern Switch version. But Melee has endured more than any other. At first, competitive Melee was pure grassroots. A bunch of young kids who just loved the game and wanted to organize tournaments to play against each other. Nintendo didn't support the competitive scene, and the size of the prize pools reflected that lonely reality. But Melee fans were more than okay to carve their own path. In 2008, Nintendo released Super Smash Bros. Brawl, the next entry in the series that was supposed to replace Melee. But the game played and felt totally different. While the graphics were better and there were more characters to play with, Brawl just didn't have the same appeal of the razor-sharp gameplay of Melee. Some of the community jumped forward to the new game, but many stayed. This is a common theme of Melee players. They stick with their game no matter what. No matter what shinier or newer option is out there. You could call it stubbornness or obsession, but either way, Melee endures, and the scene kept growing. By the early 2010s, the tournaments grew in size and scale, and specific characters in the community emerged. A documentary released in 2013, The Smash Brothers, chronicled the rise of competitive Smash and pulled back the curtain on the many characters of the competitive scene. It went pretty viral, and it was a turning point for many, including myself, to be introduced to the world of competitive Super Smash Bros., and it vaulted it into mainstream consciousness. One of the primary storylines that emerged from the documentary era was the idea of the 5 gods of Melee. Basically, there were 5 players who were simply better than everyone else. For nearly a decade, nobody could touch them. One of these 5 men won every major tournament between 2007 and 2015. Armada, Mewtwo King, Mango, PPMD, and Hungrybox. Each played a different character and had their own style, but together they were the dominant force of competitive Melee. But even within that pantheon, Hungrybox was seen as an outlier, and not exactly in a good way. Juan DeBiedma, known by his alias Hungrybox, played the game differently than most. He turned matches into wars of attrition, and in a game that was fast and flashy and violent and cool, he chose to play slow. And the Melee community disdained that. In a scene full of larger-than-life figures that thrived on adoration, he didn't get any. He was the worst of the best players, the least successful of the gods of Melee. He was often rooted against, and mostly just because of how he played. Melee is unique in that the game feels like it has no ceiling. Because of how fast and fluid you can move around the stage, the potential for expression is endless. Many of the game's best characters are stylish and have an ability to adopt a rush-down playstyle that generates exciting matches. Because of this, you're supposed to play Melee, fast and furious and aggressive. After all, that's why you watch Melee and not Brawl or Smash 4. And so a culture has emerged that it's important to play Melee the right way. You, culturally, are supposed to boot up the GameCube and select a character like Fox or Captain Falcon or Falco that has the potential for flashy combo routes and aggressive, exciting gameplay. But there is one top-tier character in Melee that stands in direct opposition to this. Jigglypuff already looks out of place. A pink balloon in a fighting game filled with dinosaurs and guns and sword fighters, and she plays totally different than them. Puff is slow and floaty, and she bounces above the stage away from the other fighters. She is extremely fragile as the easiest character in the game to kill, which forces her players to play more campy and more carefully. She is, in many ways, the anti-Melee character. Optimized Jigglypuff play is boring, rejecting the ideas of tech skill and high speed in favor of counterattacking, taking advantage of the other player's aggression. Players expressing themselves with their playstyle isn't anything new in sports. Think of the silky smooth and incisive style of Federer versus the fiery, loud athletic game of Nadal versus the precise and pressing dominance of Djokovic. The way athletes play their sport is part of what endears us to them. It's an expression of their personality. But in video games, this dynamic is sharper, more severe, because video games have stricter laws than traditional sports. More things that you explicitly can or cannot do. For instance, Marth is slower than Fox, but has a longer range. Falco's recovery is worse than Peach, but he has more combo moves. Jigglypuff's tools in the game restrict her to a patient and a defensive playstyle. She doesn't have the tools to be fast and loose in the same way as other characters, and that's the key thing. In a fighting game, you pick your character. You have autonomy over the exact strengths and weaknesses you choose to assume. When you pick Jigglypuff, you're signing a contract that says, yes, I am okay to play Melee differently than the right way. As you likely have guessed by now, Hungrybox's character of choice is Jigglypuff. He is by far the most prominent Puff player in Melee history and is the de facto face of the lame character in the competitive scene. Because of this, Juan was treated with unmatched scrutiny. The Melee community didn't like his style, so he was on the outside. He would win a tournament with Puff, beat out his peers in the 5-God Quintet, and few would cheer. Consider this clutch win over PPMD, previously known as Dr. PP. It's easy to understand why that name change occurred, where he cries out in victory, and outside of his friend and a few audience members, the venue sits mostly in silence after the win, as if to say, is this guy really celebrating winning with Jigglypuff? Melee fans want to see players be aggressive and try to attack, even if the attack is imperfect. But Hungrybox took any imperfection from his opponent and exploited it. He won by playing Melee the wrong way, and for that he became the least loved of the 5 gods. The tournaments he won were often seen as anticlimactic. In a scene that worshipped aggression and risk and style, he was pushed to the margins. To add to this, Hungrybox had a simple but titanic gap in his resume that pushed him further as the outsider of the 5 gods. HBox had never won an EVO. The Evolution Championship Series, known as EVO, has been the central event of fighting games for decades. In 1996, a few fighting game fans organized a small competition to be held at an arcade hall in the Bay Area of California. Within a few years, the tournament was filling rooms at colleges. By the mid-2000s, the tournament had outgrown those rooms and moved to a convention center in Las Vegas. Then, EVO started attracting international competitors and international crowds of spectators to watch players battle it out for what were now fairly large prize pools. Today, EVO is the premier fighting game tournament, the one with the grandest venues and the greatest competition. The annual tournament to circle on your calendar. In its history, EVO has been the stage for many iconic fighting game moments, like Daigo Umehara parrying Justin Wong's special move, Guerrero's comeback to beat Dogura, and Tokido's loser's bracket win to finally end his EVO drought. Whether you play Street Fighter, Marvel vs. Capcom, Tekken, Soul Calibur, King of Fighters, EVO is the place to prove yourself and your abilities. Win EVO, and you become immortal. But for Super Smash Bros., EVO wasn't as central of a figure. See, Melee and Brawl had been included as EVO events in the late 2000s, but Smash, as a platform fighter, not a traditional fighting game, was kind of the black sheep of the game list, and for a few years wasn't even included as one of EVO's games. The EVO team decided in 2013 to add Melee back to the slate after much ado, and it immediately was clear that it was the right decision. 2013 EVO was a watershed moment for Melee as an esport. That year, the Mandalay Bay crowd, a mix of fighting game veterans and Smash diehards, watched as a supposed party game produced some of the most dramatic matches of the weekend. Mango's coronation and Wobble's miracle run with the Ice Climbers were the primary storylines. For Hungrybox's go at it, he navigated the bracket with his trademark patience, controlling Jigglypuff around the stage, but the finals eluded him, and the crowd was quiet for him, and he finished in 3rd place. The next year, Melee returned to EVO for the 2014 iteration of the tournament. The almost 1,000 entrants broke the record for at the time the most for a Smash tournament. Juan fought all the way to being one of the final 2 players remaining of those 1,000 in grand finals against Mango. He even took it down to the final stock, but Mango closed it out and won his 2nd EVO championship in a row. He outlasted almost the entire field of the biggest Melee tournament of all time, but still went home ultimately empty-handed and on the outside. In 2015, Hungrybox returned again in search of an EVO trophy to call his own. He beat his now bitter rival Mango in top 8 to knock him out of the tournament, a fact that Mango was evidently displeased by, but still, HBox fell short. This time to the Swedish god of Melee, Armada. 3 EVO runs, all ended in the top 3, but never summiting the greatest mountain that fighting games have. He was called the Silver King, while Mango twisted the knife, quipping that Hungrybox handed out frivos to his opponents. It looked as if he was stuck in the shadow of his peers, while in the limbo of being one of the best Melee players, and no Evo to prove it. So, we enter Evo 2016. After a smooth group stage, HBox faced Fox player Chillin' Dude for the first round of bracket. Chillin' is a player who had formerly been better in the era made famous by the Smash Bros. Doc. Now, in the post-Doc era, he was more known for being on the receiving end of a brutal beatdown by his rival Leffen, another Fox player who had instigated an online beef with Chillin' Dude, and that rivalry that drew to a head with a grudge match at Apex 2015, a match that Leffen won handily and embarrassingly. Chillin's fate wasn't to improve much here, as HBox swept him with his puff. In round 2, one of the scene's preeminent Sheik players, Shroomed, stood in Juan's way. Shroomed previously made a name for himself as one of the world's best, and only, Dr. Mario players. But since then, he has switched over to the much better character of Sheik. Shroomed proved himself a worthy opponent, taking the first game from Hungrybox, and putting himself just one game away from a major upset. More modern viewers of Smash Bros. Tournaments might be surprised to hear this. Most tournaments now play best of 5 sets for the majority of brackets. Tournaments do run longer, but almost unequivocally, this is a good thing. Matches are more fair, gimmicks are less powerful, the better players can adapt over a longer set, and so on. But at EVO, sets are best of 3. Meaning you can steal a quick win in just 2 games. But here, Juan didn't let that happen. He staved off the upset by clawing back 2 games over Shroom's Sheik, including a long game 3 where he used the weird stage transformations on Pokemon Stadium and his signature patience to capture the win. After winning the set, he stood up and feigned like he is going to hit the CRT with his fist, instead settling for just lightly tapping it. This is a self-deprecating callback to an incident from the year prior. At EVO 2015, HBox beat Leffen, popped off, and in his hysteria, slapped the TV. The owner of said TV, a tournament director known as Crimson Blur, was like, what the heck? And the moment went down in Melee history. This is far from the first or last time that Hungrybox will pop off in a memorable way.
Hungrybox popping off, popping first, and stopping on the stage.
He get way high in depth like that. He takes
my gosh.
PBMD in the losers bracket.
Beats Armada. He is guaranteed a top 2 spot.
This still from the Gommel 10 pop-off, and the infinite Hungrybox's screaming in victory behind him is probably my favorite image of them all. HBox's pop-offs might seem over the top, and they are, but they're also genuine. The more cynical members of the Melee community found them to be annoying or ridiculous, but I think that it's just Juan's entire heart is in every match that he plays. He feels every hit and every up and down. Earlier this year at Genesis 2025, he started actively crying while still playing grand finals after taking a big lead, and upon winning, celebrated in a puddle of water that he spilled earlier, caused by his hands shaking from nerves. His heart is wholly on his sleeve, and when Hungrybox wins, it's a culmination and release of all those emotions. And so, against Shroomed at EVO 2016, after surviving the scare, he celebrated like it mattered, and it did. This victory punched his ticket into Championship Sunday. As Saturday wraps at EVO, the story of the tournament's first day begins to take shape. Armada was unscathed, keeping his bid of defending his 2015 championship alive, and Mango was scathed, having dropped down to the losers bracket with a loss to the rapidly up-and-coming player, Plup. Mewtwo King handled business against Sheik player Swedish Delight to secure his seat, and PPMD, the 5th god of Melee, was absent, sidelined by health issues. All of that set the stage for Sunday. Inside Mandalay Bay, under the cavernous lights of the arena, the best Melee players in the world filed in to fight for history. But almost immediately, disaster struck for Hungrybox. His longtime practice partner, Plup, dismantled his puff in 2 clean games that made Juan look flat and almost unprepared and out of ideas. So now, before most people had even settled into their seats, Hungrybox was already in the losers bracket. The dream of a smooth road to EVO was dead, so he prepared for the long, tough, intimidating road ahead. If he wants to win this EVO, he's going to have to earn it from the crucible that is the EVO losers bracket. His first step was against S2J, the Captain Falcon player that was known for feeding off momentum, and for a moment it looked like Hungrybox might crack under that wave. But he steadied and refound his game. He made S2J play at his rhythm, suffocated him, and forced enough mistakes to win. Hungrybox was back on track. Earlier we discussed how Hungrybox had a game style that was antithetical to Melee, and its ethos of being fast and technical. That was true, but it's only half the story, because the other ethos that defines Melee is one of stubborn individualism. Melee's history is one of players grinding in basements and dorm rooms and fighting to carve out legitimacy in a scene that no one thought would survive. For instance, at EVO 2013, Melee wasn't planned to be a part of the tournament. They hadn't for a few years in a row prior. But for 2013, the EVO team announced a donation campaign to determine the final game to be featured that year. Melee players rallied around their beloved game, raising over $94,000 for breast cancer research, and earning the game's spot back in EVO for the 2013 tournament. However, just a week before the event, Nintendo of America denied EVO permission to stream the Melee tournament, citing concerns over licensing. While other games like Injustice were being catapulted into esports spotlight off the back of their developer support, Nintendo seemed to directly oppose competitive Smash. But Melee fans are used to doing things grassroots. The community started an outcry, rallying and petitioning against Nintendo's ban, and it worked. Nintendo reversed its stance and allowed EVO 2013 and Melee at EVO to proceed as planned. Hungrybox remembers, you can never, ever count out Melee fans. It ended up being the most crucial campaign in the history of the competitive scene, because EVO 2013 became the moment when Melee truly crossed over. We were no longer elementary school brats in the eyes of the gaming world. Instead, our fellow gamers realized that we deserved to be there. Melee has always been the game of underdogs and obsessives, of people who pour thousands of hours into a game on a decades-old and now obsolete console, stubbornly holding tournaments despite zero support from the developers, pouring time into the intricacies of the game that they love. And in that sense, Hungrybox was pure Melee. Because Hungrybox wasn't a full-time esport athlete, backed by buzzy brands or VC firms. He wasn't flying out to tournaments on a sponsor's dime. He was grinding through it alone, juggling life priorities. He studied chemical engineering and held down a day job in that field, and still managed to squeeze every ounce of energy into Melee. He hired a coach, a rarity in the Smash world. He leaned into identifying his weaknesses, saying that no matter how good you are, you needed a trusted pair of eyes, because your own eyes can't see if everything is on course. Together they ran every matchup, dissected every game state, over and over again. It was tedious and mechanical, and just pushing at the little details, like the training sequence in Rocky IV, Hungrybox worked on the hard stuff again and again, getting a little better each day. Not that romantic, just hard work. When the crowd's jeers and taunts got to be too much, Juan stood up and pled to them.
You know how hard I work on here?
Melee was an outlet for Juan's competitive energy, and an outlet for him. Simply, he cared about Melee. And the next step in his Melee journey was his next match at EVO. This one would be against Mango. The most explosive and flashy of all of the 5 gods of Melee, Mango is an especially tough guy to play against, because you're not playing against just Mango. Like playing against Texas A&M at Kyle Field, or against the Knicks at the Garden, or against Andy Murray at Wimbledon. When you play Mango, especially in the US, you're up against the crowd. Mango played the Melee they wanted to see, and Hungrybox, of course, didn't. The first game went pretty smoothly for the Fox player, and he still had 2 stocks when he took Jigglypuff's final one. In Game 2, Mango tied the stock count at 2 apiece and dashed around the stage, keeping the speed high, but Hungrybox just floated down to the stage, tech chased Mango 3 times in a row, and landed a devastating combo that ended with Fox flying off the screen. Then the game slowed. Mango ended up off stage, and despite his best efforts, couldn't make it back. Time for a Game 3. On his second stock, Hungrybox hit Mango with a falling up aerial. Mango didn't tech, and Hbox took full advantage. On the final stock, Mango was playing the patience game well, walling out Hungrybox in the corner, but one errant getup led to him getting thrown off stage. He side B'd back on, hoping to take Hbox by surprise, but was met with death.
Oh, there's the lead, backs off the wall, and he does not get the tech. Hbox sending Mango out of the tournament in 4th place.
As Hungrybox shook Mango's hand, he almost looked regretful, like he knew he had won against the crowd's wishes. But still, he proved his dissenters wrong and won. And Hungrybox is no stranger to winning while proving others wrong. After winning DreamHack Winter 2015 and responding with emotion that is more reserved for traditional sports moments, he was asked why he did so.
You know, my dad just passed away, you know. I know it's personal stuff, but he told me, you'll never be the best. You'll be good, but you'll never be the best. So I hope he sees me now, because...
Juan owes a lot to his father. His life in America, his competitive nature that hates losing, even the game that he now plays. Juan was introduced to Melee by a son of his father's colleague. But his father was far from being a wholly good one. Juan's adolescence was marked by his father's erratic spells of rage, his obsession with money and saving every penny possible, and then when Juan was older, leaving his wife and child behind to return to Argentina. He passed in 2015 before seeing his son compete at EVO 2016, but his words live on. His lasting legacy in the Melee community is that cutting, discrediting barb that he told Juan, the statement that drove his son to work harder than anyone else at the game that he loved. Now in Hungrybox's path was the man who sent him to losers earlier in the tournament, Plup. Plup, a student of every matchup, had honed his chic to perfection, exploiting the smallest gaps in Juan's floaty Jigglypuff. But HBox has always been one of the kings of adaptation. Now, what worked for Plup earlier in the tournament fizzled out and was met with a well-placed back air. Every stock felt like a negotiation, but Hungrybox was unyielding. In Game 4, HBox was up 2-1, but was down big in this game. One strong hit from Sheik would send the pink ball flying and force a Game 5 decider. But Hungrybox just played the way he always had and absorbed the pressure. He was able to find a kill to level the stocks at 1 apiece. Then Hungrybox jumped to the center with an aerial. It hit Plup and threw him off his rhythm. He, ill-advised, landed on top of Jigglypuff, then...
One up tilt and Hungrybox capitalizes, tearing a path through the loser's bracket.
I think it's time to talk about the move that HBox has been using to close out stocks, because it's key to this story. If you've ever played Jigglypuff in Smash in a casual setting and accidentally used her down B move, you probably instantly regretted it. That move, known as Rest, puts Jigglypuff to sleep, and then she stays there for a couple seconds, unable to move and vulnerable to attack. It seems like almost a joke that the developers put in to make fun of Jigglypuff, like you picked this silly little balloon and now you're stuck asleep while other people fight. But there's a catch. If you hit a very specific part of the move, making contact with a little section right in the middle of Jigglypuff, the opponent will explode and go flying. It's a stronger launch than almost any other move in Melee. You only have one single frame, a 60th of a second, to hit the tiny hitbox. You basically have to be right on top of the other player and press down B at the perfect moment. But if you do, it is devastating. It's as high risk, high reward as it gets. But Hungrybox has spent years mastering this move. He is the best at finding the microscopic opening and timing that window. And so, in his hands, Rest is a stock and game-deciding weapon. And it's the move that sent HBox to EVO Grand Finals. The man waiting there is the best player in the world, and maybe of all time, Armada. He's proven this a deserving title at this tournament, having dropped only one game, including a brutal sweep of top players Duck, Plup, and then fellow god Mewtwo King. Armada is suffocatingly precise. The closest a Melee player has ever come to perfection. He had the highest tournament win rate of anyone, and the lowest he's ever placed at a tournament, excluding forfeits or sandbagging, is 5th. He almost never dropped a set to anyone outside the 5 gods, and he has a lifetime winning record against the other gods. He played games with airtight control, and could turn on aggression instantly and rush you down that way. At times, most of the time, Armada seemed unbeatable. Not to mention, in this grand finals, he was on the winner's side, meaning that Hungrybox had to beat him twice if he wanted to win EVO, while if Hungrybox dropped a single set, he was out. But with his back against the wall, HBox found some ways in.
It's hard to read that double jump on a character that can do it anywhere and more than once, but Armada gets it, and oh, and what an answer! Is HBox still gonna get the kill though? Does he get off this?
Not yet. Not
Wow.
yet. Still a chance.
Oh my god, and that's it! In spite of the beautiful presence of mind from Armada and Shine Spike, HBox says, I am still out here.
So mine was pretty much, you're not gonna hit the button.
There's the
Wants to keep this percent low. Oh, what's Hungrybox gonna do?
rest.
Gets the very last active frame of that. Yeah, Tomahawk a little bit obvious. Armada sniffs it out. Wow, and that's gonna be it. Restock on FD. That was nuts. Ooh. Wow, Armada. And
Yeah.
but not with that DI.
Yeah. 2 stocks apiece.
Yeah, that was that juicy DI too,
Uh-huh.
right? Where you got hit. And he was gonna be in his time for a minute. Oh, he just runs up and does it.
That's a little too fast.
Hungrybox was down to his final stock, 1 life away from his EVO dream being done. But this kind of situation is where Juan gets dangerous. Playing Jigglypuff means that you have to get used to living on a knife's edge. Puff dies early and is slow, but with that down B nuclear option, games are never truly over. Hungrybox weaponized that dynamic. Pushed to his final stock, Juan doesn't have to be patient anymore, and can just fish for those back-breaking, seemingly impossible kills. His edge comes from an unshakable refusal to believe that he is beaten until the final screen flashes. Juan credits much of his resilience to his mother. After his father left their family, she found a way to support them. She found foreclosed houses and worked with her own hands to improve them and then flip them. She took on challenges of being a woman in the real estate world and not knowing English that well, and still succeeded. Even when her husband emptied their bank account and fled, she survived. Hungrybox pays homage to his mother with his alias. When he was young, he drew a scribble using his mother's signature. That drawing looked to him like a box with teeth. A Hungrybox. And of course, he pays homage to his mother with his clutch moments in Melee that have become his signature.
Wow. Is this it?
Okay, he beat it away.
Oh my god! That's the setup. Hungrybox.
He gets the read, and he gets the and HBox.
And it.
The movie didn't end the way we...
Oh my god! What? Oh my god! And do it!
for it!
Oh man!
And HBox with a crazy pop-up.
But now, he's sitting way in kill percent against the most optimized player Melee has seen yet. Clutch won't be enough. This will require a mythical, impossible turnaround. He cannot get hit.
They said the braggers, Armada just gonna close it out right here. Let's go.
Hungrybox just tournament winners. The pressure's on.
Playing around each other right now. Armada not giving him anything. Not
Nobody
gonna
gets
take
hit.
anything. He gets
That could be it.
to reset the bracket. Beats the double jump. Wakes up the air dodge, and Armada, he's gonna play one more set. Hungrybox sitting back down.
Melee has never been just a game. It is an outlet for ambition, a stage to pour your whole competitive being into, to pursue mastery in a game that had no business being mastered. Hungrybox was the player who wore that most visibly. But just appearing at EVO, even making it to the final set of Grand Finals, was not enough to silence the question his father had left behind. To be the best, he had to actually win. In the final set of the tournament, Armada and Hungrybox left nothing on the table. They didn't need to save any tricks, any strategies, it was just all-out war. HBox was down 2-1. Hungrybox hit Armada with a 0-to-death rest combo, and then Fox was able to get back down fast enough to kill Puff during the end lag of the move. Both men are down to their final stocks. Armada gets in a few pokes, and Puff's percent creeps up. Suddenly, Juan is in danger of being launched, but he somehow gets inside for a grab. After Fox gets up on the platform, HBox does what he does best, and lands another rest.
Game 5. He missed the first rest opportunity.
We see it again and again.
And who is surprised? We're going to a game 5. Juan looks like he cannot believe it. He looks out to his coach in the crowd, psychs himself up, and just gets back to it. Armada and Hungrybox start attacking.
Situation. Both players on set point here at EVO 2016.
Where you at?
This is like his whole legacy on the line here if he makes this happen.
Right, where Hungrybox is positioning himself on the level. He's so content to just sit off stage right now.
Armada
Pull Armada in.
Yeah. Oh, there it is.
Where are we going? Hungrybox getting the KO.
Not a great jump from Armada.
Conservatively. He's got to grab. What does he get here? Head trap. The classic Armada again looking not too ready for it. He's going to get the up smash, but he's still down a whole stock. And is he going to go for the rest?
So much damage. In the skies.
Yes. Nail up there. That'll do it. Armada's got one last chance at
All of your
life.
energy must go to the skies.
I wasn't in Hungrybox's mind that day. I can't know if he was thinking about the context, the grand stage he was on, being in the finals at the biggest tournament in Melee history. I can't know if he was thinking about being one stock away from winning the one tournament that has always eluded him. I can't know if he was thinking about that if he messed up even an inch, he would certainly lose. I can't know if he was thinking about proving the crowd and his father wrong. I do know that seems like a lot to be on his mind. And so if I had to guess, he was probably focused on just getting the next move right, one action at a time. I do know that he was prepared. I do know that he practiced his edge guarding and his combos a million times before this, and I do know that those tools are enough to win. And I do know what happens. And now, you do too.
Up into the skies.
Yes. Nail up there. That'll do it. Armada's got one last chance at
All of your
life.
energy must go to the skies. Whose ear is this?
Eats a back air. This is big. He recovers. Oh, and the tournament winner.
Just as he had done many times before, Hungrybox celebrates. A complete, authentic outpouring of emotion. He had done it. After years of grinding, spending his precious time outside of work trying to become the best Melee player possible, he had harnessed everything that made him great. The patience, the risky kills, the clutch moments, and he finally put it all together. Finally, an EVO champion. Finally, he was the best. In the years following this, Hungrybox would be, without question, the best Melee player in the world. That EVO win had vaulted his confidence and his dominance to new levels. From EVO 2016 all the way through COVID in 2020, Hungrybox was ranked the #1 player in every single voting period. The critics didn't go away. In fact, as his dominance continued, and his Jigglypuff demanded that the meta accommodate his playstyle, the frustration grew. Every win was dissected, and every pop-off mocked. Juan didn't slow down. He quit his engineering job to go full-time into Smash. He was the king, winning title after title, but as the titles piled up, the community's frustration with him and his personality boiled over. Hungrybox remembers, "I learned the hard way, that when you beat everyone who tries to get to the top of the mountain, at a certain point, everybody else wants to see you fall." But then, after a YouTube documentary from Lemon, one which was a central inspiration to this video, Hungrybox's image began to shift. Fans were forced to grapple with the human behind the name and get some empathy. They started to root for him after realizing how much he went through to achieve what he did. During the pandemic, the scene's competitive order shifted as the world went online and new players rose to prominence. Hungrybox started a new career as a streamer and poured into content creation. He founded a tournament series, Coinbox, which became a pillar of the new online scene. Now, in 2025, Hungrybox is still one of the biggest faces of the Melee scene, and still has the potential to be the best player in the world on any given day, See his Genesis 11 win from earlier this year as evidence. But he's no longer the player that everybody roots against. Hungrybox has become deservedly loved. His image has pretty much transformed, as the community has realized what a triumph his career is. A collection of a million small times when Juan persevered and won, despite a myriad of challenges. Especially as all of the other Melee gods have either long since retired or soiled their reputation, Hungrybox remains as the veteran who has survived and thrived through everything. But as we look back, that day in July 2016 remains Hungrybox's pinnacle. In a macro sense, HBox's EVO win is an embodiment of the things that make Melee great. Grit, resilience, and the refusal to die, even when the odds are stacked up against you. And in an individual sense, it was a triumph for Juan the human. After years of being the player that everybody rooted against, of failing in heartbreaking and frustrating ways, of being doubted by his own family, HBox won the trophy he never could before. In one victory. All the work, all the struggle, all the perseverance collided in one unforgettable win. Thank you so much for watching. I know this video wasn't really about traditional sports like a lot of my videos are, but this story was too good not to tell, and so I hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, you should subscribe on YouTube so you can tune in for more of my videos in the future. I'll see you in the next one.